Artificial intelligence, billed as the ultimate boon to mankind, second only to internet and sliced bread. This gift from the underpaid programmers around the world has been dropped on to everyone. Some have welcomed the change, viewing its gifts as helpful, entertaining, and even enlightening at times. Others have viewed this gift much like an anthill views a dropped brick from a cruel child. There are certain things to fear from it on a creative standpoint. It can write well, they say. It will one day replace writers in the creative landscape. It can create pictures, video, music, and could even upend the entire entertainment industry. But what about writers, authors, screenwriters, and the like? Obviously, these tools can be used to replace human writers. But should they? As writers, should we bother with these kinds of tools? Do they help or hurt us? I set to find this out. On the outset, I was fearful and mistrustful of our new robot overlords, treating AI much the same way a kitten who's been kicked one too many times would treat a stranger. My expectation was that it would create wonderful stories based on my premise and leave me with the feeling of, why am I even bothering with writing anymore? But does my fear hold any water? Does this glass hold any water? And why is this man holding that glass of water? I set to answer one of these questions, but before I could use AI to assist me in writing, I needed something for AI to write from. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you my magnum opus, or, well, magnum opus of the month, or whatever. This brief story is titled The Golden Coin. I know, creative title. It was written in about 15 minutes and edited like I hired a drunk high school dropout to do it for me, so cut me some slack on this, please. Anyway, The Golden Coin. The wind blew through his hair as he stared into the setting sun, trying not to squint. The sand of the beach was wet and stuck to everything. The grit dug into his eyes, his shorts. It seemed to be in every crevice of his body. Within the man's hand was a single coin, a coin that has caused so much trouble. He gripped it hard, his fingernails pressing into it, trying to snap it in half. "So you come to your senses," a voice called out from behind him. Not exactly Shakespeare, but good enough to jump from, at least I hoped. Let's see what AI came up with to assist me with this. Now, my method was less than scientific. I plugged this intro to a few AI writer assistance programs to see just what it could come up with. The results? Well, I started with Sudowrite, a program that on the surface feels fully interactive. I can use it to create outlines, to do a brain dump, to even create character and location sheets. Everything you could possibly want to do with writing, you can do inside this little program. How very convenient! Surely it will give me some great writing in return, right? Well, not exactly. The first mark against it for me is the lack of intuitiveness of the program itself. Sure, I can create all of these things, have it do the brainstorming for me. I can even generate a story on its own. It can brainstorm tweets for you for some reason. So I decided to attempt to brainstorm my villain. Obviously, the random voice calling out from behind should be my villain. So let's see what the villain is going to be for The Golden Coin. We have the Siren. Okay, that brings a little story into a fantasy epic. Sure, I guess. Not really feeling that, though. What else? A pirate captain who views the beach as his own personal treasure hunting grounds. I have questions. Why in the world would this pirate captain view a beach as a treasure hunting ground? What's it going to find besides seashells, random trash, and the occasional rock? Ooh, maybe the pirate captain will find a bottle cap. Next, local coastal captain who wants to control the magic for his own selfish gain. Perhaps this has some possibility, but the opening paragraph establishes our hero's anger and disdain for the coin. So we'd have to establish some reason as to why the hero doesn't want to give it to him, the repercussions for not giving it to him, and make it big enough that we have some care about the outcome. So not perfect, but a lot better than Jack Sparrow up there tumbling over soda cans. Corrupt politician who views the beach as their own personal playground and doesn't care about its destruction. What? Next. And the last one becomes, well, Captain Marvel versus the yuppie tourists or something. I don't know. Maybe they asked her to smile? I don't know. Well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not using the program correctly. You can actually give the program some context as to what you're creating. So instead of just saying villain on a beach, I could also tell it that the story is about a golden coin. Let's see what it comes up with. So for context, I went with an elderly man who wants the coin back. The results? Wealthy businessman plotting to get the coin back. For reasons, I guess. If he's wealthy, can't he just go get another golden coin? Next. And next is a muscular figure covered in tattoos and Jason Momoa. That's Jason Momoa. I think he can afford his own golden coin. Next. And we're back to the business guy on the beach again. Man, that dude really gets around. Next. And lastly, a wealthy businessman. I don't know what Pseudo-Wright has against businessmen, but apparently them and Jason Momoa are the only villains this program can come up with. All in all, Pseudo-Wright has some excellent tools, but they're grasping at cliches without caring too much about context, and really wants Jason Momoa to be the next great villain for whatever reason. Maybe they don't like his dancing. Next up is a program titled Ryter. R-Y-T-E-R. I'm naturally leery of any program that attempts to be cool in its name by purposely misspelling the name, especially when their name is supposed to be synonymous with writing. To me, this looks a bit like a college professor teaching English 101 but misspelling English on the door to the class to appear cool. It doesn't leave the greatest impression. So it's naturally more suited to emails and marketing ads and other articles. Let's see if I can trick it into writing a story. That's all I'm really here for, after all. Now, as far as writing tools in this goes, on the surface it seems impressive. It has an array of voices to write your article in, a number of different ways you can present the content in. Not much is helpful to me on my quest right now. However, here it is. Story plot. The time I couldn't distinguish AI from humans. Hasn't been difficult so far. There we go. I could go with simple magic. The coin is magic, folks. And our hero is attempting to keep it away from some psychopath. And we get a confusing story about a village named Eldridge. To sum it up, Arthur finds a coin beneath a tree. The coin apparently is good luck and grants him good fortune. Victor wants the coin for himself. Victor tries to coerce, then tries to steal it. Then Victor decides to destroy part of the forest to get another coin. Arthur stands up to him, and Victor is thwarted. The end. It feels underwhelming. Has numerous plot holes, such as Arthur being at his forge at night by himself, yet still overhearing a plan of attack at his forge at night. Lots of circular logic there. And I want you to know right now, it is physically hurting me not to make the obvious news media joke here. I won't, but I so want to right now. So let's try with my prompt. Maybe I can get a better outcome from it if I just give it a jump start. Yeah, it skipped right over that and gave me a rewrite of the exact same story I rejected. Not a lot of promise in this one. I don't know how Ryter works for articles and blogs and emails, but for storytelling, I'd suggest skipping it. Let's try some older ones. Maybe they'll do better at what they do. Starting with ChatGPT. It's been in the whole AI game for 3 years at this point. It's had some significant upgrades in that time too. Let's see if it can do any better than the others. So at the start, it's an easier interface than the previous two programs, though it has less features, more of a fire and let's see what we hit type. It proceeds to tell us a story of a man who is contemplating on throwing the coin into the ocean. Yet the man is hesitant because the coin always finds its way back. We have danger hinted at it. But what does that mean? Is this a dangerous coin? Is it deadly? Why does he want to get rid of it? Questions that remain unanswered or even hinted at. The villain with the nose definitely wants it for reasons. Maybe he's late for a Scooby-Doo episode and they want it on set. I don't know. It's better and worse than the writer's story. It's better because it's not trying to be a strange deforestation allegory like the writer one. Worse because, at least in the writer's story, the villain has some motivation. But neither one was as bad as Pseudo-Right. Poor Jason Momoa. What do they have against that guy? Save for that annoying dancing commercial he was in. Maybe that's it. Next, we try Claude. Claude, the AI, first came out in 2023, developed by Anthropic. Hopefully they can do better than Writer at least. It starts by asking some basic questions. Questions are good. I appreciate questions from the AI. Maybe it'll give me something better than a pissed-off Jason Momoa on a beach. Claude's natural direction for this feels a bit like a monkey's paw scenario. The coin has the ability to bring back the dead, but the coin itself exacts a price. Okay, that's a little better on the surface. I appreciate that the villain isn't Jason Momoa this time. Female, tall, elegantly dressed. That woman from The Devil Wears Prada? Well, I can appreciate Meryl Streep in this role, I guess. Still, it makes a fundamental mistake here. It tells me there's a price to be paid, but it never tells us what that price is. I mean, it's something he hates, so maybe it's exchanging one death for another. That would be a very gruesome and fantastic idea to play with. But it never said that. It just said they'd all come with a price. That's great, but we need far more context than that. Still, out of all the ones I've used so far, only Claude actually jumpstarts my brain with anything. Last up is Gemini, Google's innovation in the AI ecosphere. Who knows? Maybe we'll get beyond Jason Momoa and Meryl Streep. Why, we might even go all the way to Angelina Jolie. Again, we get questions. I like questions. A few more than Claude asked us even. That's a good start. But in the interest of fairness and not complete laziness at my part at all, I stepped right over those questions and gave it the prompt. Let's see what happens. Now, out of all of them, we finally get a price. His brother died because the wishes the man on the beach asked the coin. Much like the monkey's paw, the villain is put in the object itself rather than the other person. Here, the coin held no actual power. Yay! The man was confused and believed it did. His wife or girlfriend or friend or whoever corrects him on it. And he sees in her eyes she's right. And they bury the coin on the beach. For reasons. It has its own strengths. Elena feels like her own character for once and not a cheap knockoff of a character from a movie. The coin seems to exact a price, but no, wait. The main character was just confused because of grief. The power of love wins over all, and they bury the coin, and it turns into a golden tree and... Okay, I may be just exaggerating a little bit here. Each one finished the story with their own special touch, we'll say. They still needed guidance. I could coax a good story out of each one of these services, don't get me wrong. It would require tweaking and nudging, and okay, maybe not out of Writer, but the others I could definitely coax a story from it. The problem is, well, in the hour or so it'd take for me to coax a story from each one of these services, I could have literally spent half that and wrote, well, this. The Golden Coin, 754 words, give or take. A short story about a coin, the price of a wish, and in some ways it was influenced by that old movie, Wishmaster. Using tools like these may occasionally help you jumpstart, But much like a man using a knee brace he doesn't need for running, it weakens certain abilities you have or doesn't let you develop them. If you don't develop these skills on your own to create and brainstorm your way around a problem, then your writing may end up feeling like the writing from these programs did. Cliched, filled with plot holes and tired allegories, or just plain dull. But that's just my opinion. In the interest of fairness, I've included the full story following this. It's also available at the link in the description if you'd rather read it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the golden coin. The wind blew through his hair as he stared into the setting sun, trying not to squint. The sand on the beach was wet and stuck to everything. The grit dug into his eyes, his shorts. It seemed to be in every crevice of his body. Within the man's hand was a single coin, a coin that had caused so much trouble. He gripped it hard, his fingers pressing into it, trying to snap it in half. "So you came to your senses," a voice called out from behind him. "You didn't have to murder them," Greg cried. His voice almost cracked at the end. "But you did not understand the deal," the old voice said. He stepped onto the beach. He didn't look quite as old as he did that night in the shop, but it was only a week ago. But for Greg, it felt like a lifetime. His face wasn't as wrinkled as it was before, his skin smoother. He didn't walk as crooked now and didn't even need the cane he had before. "You wanted riches, remember? You wanted happiness. You didn't bother reading what it would cost." Greg turned back to the ocean. "Cost me," he said. "It was supposed to cost me." "Oh, but in a way it has. Now look at you, Greg Gregerson, multi-millionaire, newly minted widow. Body of a Greek god. I believe that's what you asked for when you took the coin. And I gave you everything you receive." "I could still almost feel them," Greg said. "I just wanted to be younger, fitter, not to steal the youth from my children, the life from—" He gasped, squeezing his eyes shut. A heavy hand landed on Greg's shoulder. "You got what you asked for. Perhaps you should make your final wish to be more careful with wishes." "I wish," Greg snarled, thinking of his wife, the car accident she died in, the hours of agonizing pain in the hot, twisted wreckage as everyone searched for her, the lottery ticket, his kids coming home from school, growing older than ancient, falling frail and brittle before his eyes as he grew younger. He thought of the coin, the heavy weight in his hand, the coin of Alexander, supposedly held by the very— "Do not delay the inevitable," the old man whispered in his ear. "Make your wish. Make us rich, make us powerful. Wish your family back if you choose. You can bring them all back now. You can—" Somewhere inside Greg, he knew that would be a mistake. They'd be twisted, slaves to the old man, or worse. And Greg would have no choice, his final wish used up, then to be dead or indentured to the bitter old fiend for 1,000 years. He gritted his teeth thinking of that, him and his entire family, the servants of a mad, ancient ruler. All because of that stupid coin that was found. I wish Alexander the Great had never been found. He turned to the old man, a grim look of triumph on his face. The old man's face now a mask of horror. "No! No! Not that! You can't wish for that one!" "I wish," Greg said, "Alexander the Great's body had never been found." He dropped the coin in front of the old man and watched as it levitated and began to spin. It glowed yellow, then piercing white light as the old man slowly began to age. "But it was found in 1716, he stuttered. "I mean, 19, oh no, anything but that, please." The coin flipped and flipped as dust particles from the old man rose up and drifted into it. Particles from Greg as well flowed off of him in the wind, pulling from his own skin. He looked down at his hand and watched them wrinkle, his belly push out in the middle-aged paunch, and even his full head of hair, the very first thing he'd wished for, drift into the coin. It vanished in a wink. Then everything turned to black. Greg awoke and stood on the beach. He was still a little woozy, but stayed steady. He wasn't in his shorts anymore. He was wearing his work khakis. What was he doing out here? Just then his cell phone buzzed. Pulling it out, he saw a single text. "Bring home something to grill for dinner tonight. You're cooking." He didn't know why, but he dialed his wife. He had the sudden urge to hear her and his children's voices.